What's up, guys? Junkyard Junkie back here with another video. Today we're going to be working on a 2010 Ford Focus. We're going to replace the wheel bearing, so let me show you that now. Okay, so you just want to go to whatever side of the car, back side of the car would roll first if any side rolls, because it's got a little bit of a downhill slant. So you want to just chalk your wheel off with a piece of wood or something. Okay, so there is a pinch weld. We're just going to slide the jack under. Get on that pinch weld. Jack it up. Now we'll get a jack stand. Okay, now that I got a jack stand under it, we're going to lay it down to the jack stand and come back up just where the jack is touching. Okay, now we're going to remove the lug nuts. I'm using electric impact. If you're using a 4-way lug wrench, all you got to do is, before you jack it up, break them loose, and then jack it up, and then you'll spin them off once it's in the air. Okay, so these are 19mm lug nuts. Okay, so this is a good time to check your CV joints. One thing I already noticed is, look here, you can see the grease on the tie rod. It's coming from the CV boot. It is ripped, so that will have to be replaced. So that'll probably be in another video. For this, there's 2 bolts on the back. You don't want these top bolts. That's to get to your brakes. To get the whole assembly off, there's 2 15mm bolts. If you look in here, got that one. You have that one up there. So they're both 15mm. We'll go ahead and loosen those now. Okay, once you got them broke free, that's the hardest part. Then you can zip them off. You can do it with your ratchet. I'm going to use electric ratchet. Hold the brake caliper up. You don't want it to go flying. Just rock it off. We're going to hang it. 1 second. Okay, so this is where I recommend these S hooks. They're real cheap. They're great for hanging these. Just look in there like that. Then you can hang it by your strut. Just like that, so your brake line has too much tension on it, because that's the last thing you want. Now we're going to work on this. I believe it's 32mm. 1 second and I'll check. Okay, now that you got your brake caliper off, what you want to do is take your rotor off. As you can see, this one's loose, but if it was on there real tight, what you could do, little trick is to put lug nuts on so you don't hit your threads by accident, and use a hammer to hit in between here. It'll break the rust loose and it'll come off. But we don't have that problem. Bring it on off. Okay, so this lower ball joint is held in by a 15mm on this side and a Torx bit on this side. It's a T50. Most cars will have a castle nut and a carter pin, so we're going to take that off now. So you'll have to grab it on one side with the T50, break it loose. Push that bolt through. If it don't come through, use a punch and just tap it through. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take this tie rod off. It's 15mm. before we go too far, what we're going to do is hit it on the side here with a hammer, and that will usually let that come free. So just get it. There it goes, it dropped free. So go ahead and take that rest of the way off. We just held it because it was starting to spin down here. Okay, so we got to take this axle nut off. It is a 32 millimeter. If you don't have a impact wrench, which I highly suggest you get, you can pop the little center cap out of the rim, put it on the ground, break it loose, and then jack it back up. It's kind of like, you know, loosening your lug nuts. The same principle. At the end of this, when I torque it down, you'll see me use the rim to torque it down. So then you'll get a better idea of how to do it. Okay. Okay, now that you got the nut off, you want to take a punch. First, see if you can do it with your hand. If you can, just do it that way. I can't, it's seized in there. Okay, I got a little Kroll. Squirt that in there. So to speed this along, I'm going to use an air hammer. Okay, this one is on there extremely tight, so I'm having to pull this out. The little hub grappler. Hopefully this will get it off. Go ahead and give it another douse of Kroll. Okay, now that we've gotten it to push through a little bit, okay, we're going to take this upper bolt out. This is an 18 millimeter. Rubber free. Let's go ahead and take this ABS wire off. Little 8 millimeter. Pull it out, just tuck it away. Now we're going to go ahead and push this on through. It's coming. Shoot some Kroll in there on the back side. All right, we'll go a little bit more. Got the brake loose. Slide that off the ball joint. Here's my shop press. As you can see, got stuff all in it because I barely ever use this anymore now that I found this new tool. So stay tuned and you'll see. Okay, so today we're going to be using a cheap, unnamed wheel bearing remover kit. This thing you can find cheap on Amazon, or you can get the, Matco version, or I think it's called the hub grappler. but they all do the same thing. Essentially, use these plates to push it out, these cups to receive it. It's a really easy thing, and I'm about to show you how to use it now. If you can find a couple 4x4s, that's the way to do it. I stack up a couple 4x4s usually. Right now I can't find any, so I'm going to use 2 stones and then put the wood on top to hold the actual knuckle itself. Okay, so first we're going to get this snap ring out. Look here. There's a ring that goes all the way around. It has 2 ears right here and right here. And then there's 2 holes in those ears. This is made for snap ring pliers. I suggest you go ahead and get them. They're cheap enough anyways. And so might as well, because you can use pliers, but to me, it's already kind of a pain to do. So why not get the right tool for the right job? Now, something to take note of real quick is you need to leave that hole whenever you do reinstall it so you can see where the ABS sensor goes in. See that little hole right there? That's where the ABS goes in. And if you look, there's the end of the ear right there, right there. We just want to make sure that sensor can come down and read this tone ring. So I'm going to take that off now. When doing this, use eye protection. Like, I can't stress that enough. This thing will go flying on a good day. It could pop you in the eye. It's very dangerous. Don't lose your eye over just being lazy. You just get them in there. If it's stuck in there, that one moved good, so I know it's not stuck in there. You can take a screwdriver and hit it and turn it. That'll break loose any rust that's built up. There you go. And as you can see, it's shot off. You don't want that hitting you in the eye. Okay, so first we want to knock out this hub from the bearing itself. What I like to do is just get a socket. It's really easy. Find a socket that only hits the hub itself. So we drive it out, and then we'll press out the bearing. The socket I used to knock out the wheel hub was 27mm, by the way. So, as you can see there, it fits well. And now I'll show you it coming out. Okay, so I got it on 2 pieces of wood, and then there's little bricks I put underneath it for more height. We're just going to knock it out. So you want it on there, you don't want to hit the bearing, you only want to hit the wheel hub itself. Alright. Now, what's most likely going to happen, it's always going to happen pretty much, is that front race is going to come out and stay on this hub. Now, they make tools to get that off. I don't know where mine is at right now, or until I use it. So I'm going to do what most people do. That is, just cut it at a 45-degree angle. And then you don't want to cut through. If you cut through this, just mar this up, then you're going to have to replace this wheel hub itself. But you just cut it, and then you take a cold chisel, hit it with a hammer, try to break it loose. Once it breaks loose, it'll come off. If you're not deep enough, you can keep going until you are deep enough. Okay, so now that we're at this part, what we're going to do is we're going to find one of those adapters to push this out and put the receiver cup on the back. We took out the snap ring from here in this back side. This would be going to the wheel. This would be, going to the passenger side. We're going to push it out this way and then press it in this way. Okay, so from that kit, I found this receiver here. We'll just put that in there. And it comes with this bolt 2 washers, so washer on now. Stick it through our plate. And then on the back side of this, we need our cup. And see, we don't want the cup to go down here because it's got to press up against the knuckle itself. That way it'll pull it out. So that fits good there. And then we need a adapter for the end piece. And then we get this. Well, first we need the washer. And we get this started. So your end product will look like this. This will push it straight into our little receiver. We're going to grab one side with a adjustable. You could do the other side with another adjustable or a wrench or whatever you have. I'm going to use an impact. I believe they said this isn't impact rated, but I always use an impact. It just makes life easier. Doesn't take as long. Okay, so now we're going to drive the bearing out of the knuckle. We'll grab on with our adjustable in the back. Impact in the front. And out it comes. Once again, that comes out a little bit easier. If you're wondering why it's called ball bearings, well, there you go. There's a bunch of balls. So here's a look inside the bearing itself. See if I can get you a light. There'll be a ball in each one of those little grooves right there. All the way around, and then you got the race, that shiny silver part that goes over it. This is what keeps the hub from meeting the middle of this and just grinding each other out. I figured I'd just show you that. So this old one we're just going to throw away. Okay, so you just want to put it in like a vise, and then I guess I cut a 45-degree angle on that. I'll show you that. And then we're going to take a cold chisel and a hammer and try to break it free and then tap it off. Like I said, those tools that actually pull races off are way better. They usually always work as long as you got a little bit of space. Okay, so once again, please use eye protection here, because if you don't, you get metal shards in your eye, all this bad stuff. As long as you're safe, you're not going to have any of this happen to you. But just be safe. Also, I probably need to change my cutting disc. It's a little bit rougher than what I remember. So let's get started. Okay, so keep stopping and checking, because you do not want to mar the actual wheel hub itself. You just want to get this bearing down there. So if you look there, it's about to the bottom, so we want to stop going so deep there. Go deeper up here. And then we're going to try and hit it with a hammer. Okay, so remember, you can always keep grinding, but if you go too far, you got to replace it. So right now, I cut pretty deep. That line right there. So we're going to go ahead and try and hit it and see if we can crack it loose. If we can't, then we'll go ahead and start grinding some more. So at this point, just need a chisel, a little flat chisel. 3-pound hammer. Go stick it in the groove. So I'm gonna grind a little bit more. When you hit it, you want to hit it at an angle. I was hitting it like that a little bit, but you want to hit it as much of an angle as you can. All right, we want to try and hit it some more. There we go, it broke free. So now we're just going to knock it on out. Once you knock it free, it pretty much just comes easy at that point. Just gentle taps will bring it on out. Okay, so now you want to inspect this. Make sure you didn't cut into it. And mine looks good. So just make sure you look all the way around this. You can clean it up at this point, and we're going to put a little grease on it. Okay, so now we're going to do reverse of install. So first, we're going to clean this up real good in there. So I'll be right back. Okay, so as a little tip, before we get started putting the bearing in, I just want to say, if this is your own personal wheel bearing, what you need to do, or a little tip to do, is to take your bearing, put it in the freezer overnight. That way it will actually shrink up just a small fraction, but that little bit will make it slide in even easier. The other thing is before I put it in there, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of grease around the inside of it and around the inside of the knuckle as well. That way it just slides in better. Just a thin little coat is all you need. You don't want to glob it or nothing, just a thin little coat. Okay, so this part's extremely important. You want to make sure that you put the bearing back into the knuckle the correct way. If you don't, the ABS will not receive a pulse. If it doesn't receive a pulse, you will get an ABS light, which will turn off your ABS. It won't do anything major. You'll just mainly have to redo the whole procedure and buy another bearing. So you don't want to waste your time. Now, for this car, I've seen two different ones. One actually has a metal ring around it, and like the other side doesn't. It'd be rubber like this. Now, this one doesn't have it, and I know a lot of people will look at this and not know which way to press it in, because there is a right way and a wrong way. With this one, take a little metal thing like this. It's not a strong magnet, but you'll be able to feel it. Put it on one side, as you can see. I mean, it's not strong, but you can feel it grabbing. And like that, it's at an angle right now where it should just slide off. We flip it around, I don't feel anything. And if I try to let go at the same angle, it falls right off. So we want that magnetic side right here, this side, to go towards our ABS sensor. So we're going to press it in just like that. So maybe you'll learn something from that. Now, to get it started, we're just going to use one of these pieces of wood just to get it started straight. You want to get it started straight as you can. So luckily they kind of built a beveled edge all the way around it to help it go straight, but I still do this anyways. Just take the block of wood and a hammer, and we're just going to tap it in slightly. Okay, once you got that nice and level, we're just going to do the reverse and actually push it in with this tool. So you want to find a cap that fits it perfectly. This cap looks perfect. You want to make sure that thing fits perfect. If it's too big, then it won't go in and you'll be pressing against your knuckle. If it's too small, it will press in on the bearing that round piece I showed you that's magnetic, and it'll split it apart and you'll have to buy another bearing. So you just want to be careful with that. So we take our long bolts, get a washer, slide the washer through. Now we're going to slide it through the bearing. We just want something bigger than the front of that. So I'm just going to use this. That works just fine. As you can see, it's bigger. So after that, you get your other washer, slide it on. Once you get that there, you're just going to get this on here, screw it on. Okay, at this point, the back part back here will want to slide around on you. So just kind of hold it stationary, get it where it's lined up, and tighten it down. So that looks good to me. It's all lined up. So now then, we're just going to run that in. And if you're using a socket or just an adjustable, at this point, you'll spin it and eventually you'll feel it bottom out. If you're using an impact like me, you'll feel it bottom out, but mainly you'll hear a tone change and your gun will also shake a lot more violently, and it won't be turning as much. So at that point, you want to stop. You don't want to over tighten these. So we'll go ahead, get that on there. Right there, it stopped moving and stopped turning, and it changed in pitch, so we know we bottomed out. Okay, so now after you take it apart, you want to look in there, make sure everything's lined up, make sure it's pushed all the way in, and you can see the ABS hole. You can see, looks great. Okay, so I know I said this earlier, but I figured I'd remind you now just in case you're going with the video. But your snap ring here, it has to line up with that ABS hole. So there's that hole. You want the ears to be where they're not going to obstruct the sensor from going in. So like that. So once again, use eye protection. And all we're going to do, someone's going to stick it in there and hold the back and squeeze these together. Slid right in, but if you look, that ear there, let me put that right, it's kind of in the way. It's slightly in the way, so we want to move the ring around. So at this point, you can do two things. You can, take your pliers, just move it just like that, or you can just take a screwdriver and take a flat blade and just tap it around, just slowly tap it around, and it will move pretty easily. Okay, so now we're going to install the wheel hub. We want to counter hold this middle piece right here. That way, when the hub is being pushed through, it doesn't separate this and push it out. So I found this that'll fit in there good. And get the hub. The hub, you just want something that will grab onto it. Now we're going to get a little bit of grease. So just like with the wheel bearing, we're going to take our wheel hub and we're going to get it started. Try to make sure you're straight as possible. If you mess up, you have to go through all this again. And we're just going to take that block of wood. Okay, so that's in there. It's looking straight to me. So now I'm going to hook up the tools I showed you earlier. Okay, so now we have our setup. Got that. And we'll put it back up here. Try and get you a good angle where you can actually see it being pressed in. Once again, you want to listen for it to change in tone, and you want to feel it shake a lot more and stop turning, essentially. Okay, so we'll grab on with our wrench down here. As you can see, all that extra vibration and everything, that's when you want to stop. I heard the tone change, and now we're just going to back it out. Okay, so once you have that done, you want to make sure there's no binding and grinding. There'll just be a little space right there. It'll be pushed in back there. But you want to turn this and make sure you don't feel or hear any binding or grinding. That sounds good. Okay, to make sure this don't happen again, I'm going to use Permatex Anti-Seize. You don't want to put it on your threads. You want to put it up here in these splines. And this stuff will get everywhere, so be careful. This will make it come out easier next time. So what it does is it rust welds itself inside the hub, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our knuckle, just the lower ball joint first. Make sure get this back in there like it's supposed to. There we go. We'll put its bolt back in. So it's an 18 millimeter. So we're just going to tighten it back up. Okay, now we're going to take a torque wrench. Got it on 53 foot-pounds. You want to go nice and slow, easy, precise movements. You can rent these at your auto parts stores. Don't forget to put your heat shield back on. Okay, stick your pinch bolt through. Number 15 on this other one, T50 for the torque. So once again, we're just going to take our electric ratchet and other ratchet on the other side. This way, we can tighten it up. Okay, now we're going to tighten it the rest of the way by hand. We'll leave that one on there. This one gets torqued down to 48 foot-pounds. Make sure you're good and straight on these because they will want to strip out. Okay, so now that that's done, okay, we had to wait on a new CV axle to come in. They wanted to go ahead and replace it. So I put the CV axle in and got us right back to where we were. So we're going to go ahead and run it down, and we'll torque it in a little bit. Okay, started to stop on me, so we stop, torque it down when we get done. We're going to go to 24 foot-pounds for this tie rod. This outer tie rod, just shove it up in there. Now that we got it snug, we're going to finish it off with a torque wrench. Perfect. Okay, so don't forget your ABS wire up here at the top. 8 millimeter socket. Don't go crazy with this. It just needs to be snug. All right, now that's done, we're going to take our rotor back on. A little trick to get these calipers back on. Take a lug nut, screw them down. All right. Take our caliper, hook out, and put our bolts back in. So we'll torque them down to 46 foot-pounds. Okay. Now we're ready to torque this down. We're going to jack the car up, and we're going to put the tire on it and set it back down. Okay, if you see that center part of the rim, all we do is come in from the back and pop it out right there. And just get them started right now, run them down, but we won't torque them until it's on the ground. Now we remove the jack stand, and I'll remove the jack. Okay, so we are now almost done. We gotta go to 199 foot-pounds with a 1/2 inch. All right. Okay, so these lug nuts get torqued down to 95 foot-pounds. Perfect. Okay, so that's all there is to changing a wheel bearing. Normally they go a little bit smoother than that. The CV axle was really rust welded in there, so that was a big problem, and recording all this takes a little bit of time too. But overall, this is a medium, difficulty job. That's where I would put it. Fords typically do get stuck like that. That's why I definitely suggest anti-seize. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, please give me a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Also, you should see on the screen my subscribe button, and then on the left side should be a video recommended to you. So give that a try. Thanks.